Hello, everybody. My name is Dan Skipbound, and this is the Top 5 Weekly, where myself and my guests, in this case, just one guest, we have our top 5 of whatever the topic may be, whether it be an actor, an actress, a director, a topic. And this week, in honor of the release of Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, the topic is Star Wars movies. And I couldn't ask for a better person to discuss Star Wars movies with, someone I know is a huge Star Wars fan just like me, and that's my good buddy, Sandy the Sandman Robinson. There he is. Sandy, how are you doing this evening, buddy?
I am doing very well. You couldn't have asked me to be on a better show, something that I am very, very passionate about, and something that I literally could sit there all day and talk to people about. So I love Star Wars, and I love you. So you know what? Two great things to do.
Yeah, I don't come around. I don't like people don't know me as this giant Star Wars fan, but I actually am. I actually saw The Empire Strikes Back when I was 6 years old in theaters. I didn't see A New Hope, but I've seen every Star Wars movie since in a theater, and it's just something that I really resonated with over the years. I've read a lot of books. I got books over here. I had action figures. I actually sold all my 6-inch Black Series action figures to my brother. My brother owns them. So when I go over at my brother's, I look at them because that's as close as I'll get to them. But so I wouldn't have sold them to anybody else. I'll sell them to my brother because I didn't want to sell them, but I needed some money. So I sold them to my brother. And I'm so envious that my brother has my Black Series. But let's not talk about toys and books and all that stuff.
Oh, we can do that all day.
Yeah, we can get into talking about that all day. Let's get into the movies. And I always go to my guests first. So, Sandy, what is your number 5 Star Wars movie?
Okay, so my number 5, and just, for a little bit of clarification, I have seen every single Star Wars movie, including A New Hope in the theaters. My mom took me when I was 5 years old. It was my first movie ever. And since then, I have not missed one opening weekend for Star Wars at all, except for The Phantom Menace. But I still saw it in the theater when I came to Calgary, where I live now, to see some friends. And they waited for me since May to when I came in June to go and see it. So I've seen every movie in the theaters. And my number 5 is one that I went to in Vancouver, British Columbia with my parents when we were on vacation. And that was in The Return of the Jedi is my number 5.
All right, Sandy, we're going to have to hold off there, buddy.
I figured as much.
You know, hold your horses, my friend. And I love you. It seemed like you really had a lot to say about Return of the Jedi. But we're going to get to that pretty soon here. My number 5, I'll tell you what, is a movie that came out a lot more recently than The Return of the Jedi. It's a movie that when I heard of the concept, I was like, oh my God, this could be really good. And then you start seeing the casting of the actors and the people that are going to be in it. And then you start seeing the trailer and you're like, oh boy. And then recently we know this, we're not going to mince words here. There's been some drama behind the scenes of some of these Star Wars movies. And this one had a little bit of drama, but I don't think it affected the overall product. I really love the overall product. And that product is Rogue One, a Star Wars story. I absolutely, Jyn Erso was a character. Soon as I saw her little story where she escaped at the beginning and then she was on the run and then I love that they went to some of the seedy sides of Star Wars. Did you happen to have Rogue One on your list?
Rogue One's not on my list. It's in my honorable mentions, though.
Okay. So I just want to get that out just in case. I don't want to go on further. But yeah, I love Admiral Krennic by Ben Mendelsohn. In this time of year, it was kind of weird. Oh God, what is his name? He was in Doctor Strange and Rogue One around the same time. Oh, what's the actor's name now? I can't. Mads Mikkelsen. Mads Mikkelsen was playing a bad guy in Doctor Strange, and he was playing a good guy in Rogue One. So he was really coming off of a great TV show called Hannibal. I mean, if you haven't seen Hannibal, he's amazing. And so it was like nice to see him be a bad guy and a good guy, but still play a type of character that you can really believe in. He has like a gravitas to him. And then the rest of the cast, the robot K2SO, I think is Cassian Andor. I mean, and then Forrest Whitaker as a character from Clone Wars. He's kind of a little bit messed up. He looks like he's been through the ringer a little bit at this point. And I just really loved the feel, the look, the aesthetic of it all. And I thought, oh wow, if all these Star Wars stories movies are going to be like this, we're going to have so many places to explore and so many things that we can get into in Star Wars, which is what I am really looking for. Maybe it's just my character. Maybe I'm just that type of guy, Sandy. But I like the seedy side of Star Wars, the dirty, the gritty, the nasty, the dark side of Star Wars. Not necessarily the Sith, but just kind of the corners, the little corners where crazy characters are crawling out of the corners. And you have a little bit of that in Rogue One, which I really gravitated towards. And the ending, I mean, you could say whatever you want about the ending. I absolutely love the ending of this movie because you don't know these people in A New Hope. They had to die. Spoiler alert, they had to die. And I thought their arc of their story was perfect, and I loved it. So that's just me. What do you think about Rogue One?
Listen, you and I are a lot alike in that. Nobody's gonna like deny this because I've said it a billion times. My favorite literary character, because honestly, this character started in print before it came to the screen of all Star Wars, is Darth Vader. Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader is my favorite character of this entire series. And I'm like you, I like the darker movies. Rogue One was definitely on my list of honorable mentions. I wasn't as big a fan of the actual movie as a lot of people were, but the final 10 minutes of this movie gets an honorable mention for me because Darth Vader given us what we wanted to see. Like what happened just before that door in A New Hope blasts open and those stormtroopers come through and then Darth Vader walks through. What happened just before that? Well, guess what? We saw that. And he rips through everybody like a hot knife through butter, literally, because it's a lightsaber. And it just, I just giggled like a as it was happening. And I mean, it was amazing. And don't get me wrong, the rest of the cast is fine. I mean, I love the characters that were in like the Rogue One group. They're fantastic. I loved seeing a younger Mon Mothma. That was great. He gave us exactly what he said he was going to give us, the director, and he gave us a war movie, and that's exactly what it was. I loved Ben Mendelsohn, as Krennic. He was really good. I didn't hate the de-aging special effects on Tarkin or on Princess Leia at the end. It didn't bother me as much. It didn't take me out of the movie when I saw it. And the scene that Krennic and Vader have in Vader's castle. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just like his little threats, his little
Innuendos.
His little innuendos is just perfect Vader. And it was so good to see. So honorable mention for me, really decent movie. If I had to pick 6, it was probably going to be my number 6. But yeah, no, it's well deserving of the name Star Wars story. So,
all right, going back to you, and before I go back to you real quick, I did love this. I thought the CGI on Tarkin was incredible. I mean, I couldn't even tell it wasn't. Oh God, see, this is why I'm bad at trivia. I can't remember stuff when I need to remember stuff. Christopher Lee and what's the other guy's name? Because they did so many of them. Huh?
Tarkin?
Tarkin. Yeah. What actor that played Tarkin in the original? God. It's Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee and him did all those Hammer horror movies. Why did I even get onto this tangent? I should have just went to you for number 4.
Yeah, no, now I'm just drawing a blank on that one. Now I feel stupid.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I'll look it up while you're talking about your number 4.
Okay, so my number 4, I'm probably okay on this one because I don't think that you will put it there or anywhere in your top 5. So I think I'm going to be all right. Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, is my number 4.
Yeah, I will have to say, Sandy, I do not have this on my 5. So be my guest. Talk all you want about The Phantom Menace, and I have some good things to say about it myself.
Good. All right. I absolutely adore The Phantom Menace. I don't care about Jar Jar Binks. I don't give a crap what you think. He does not take me out of the movie. He's just another character, another silly character like 3PO was in Star Wars: A New Hope. Just whatever. I just get Jar Jar out of your head and follow the story. Follow the actors. Follow what you always wanted to see. We grew up in a time when there was only 3 Star Wars movies, and the most lightsaber action we saw was at the end of Empire Strikes Back and at the end of Return of the Jedi. And those fights were not that particularly good. We went backwards in time to the age of the Jedi when there was 10,000 of them protecting the universe. These are the best of the Jedis because they were all trained perfectly in the Force by people like Yoda, by people like Mace Windu, by people like Qui-Gon Jinn. There's a reason they're so awesome. If you see, there are so many different scenes, like when they're on the freighter and they're trying to get down to, or when they're on the ship and they're trying to get down to the planet to get away from the guys that are trying to kill them. They jump from like 100 feet up in the air, whoop, whoop, like Jedis, and just like no bones about it. And it's not even the action, because the best lightsaber scene of all time is the Qui-Gon Jinn, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Darth Maul. But hands down, the best lightsaber battle of all time in Star Wars. That's my opinion. I don't care. It's just how I love it. But it's also the political drama of this that I love so much. You can see from the moment you see Senator Palpatine on, talking with, with Queen Amidala. He's the bad guy because we've seen the other trilogy, so we know that he's the bad guy, and he plays it. He plays it so well. And like that little thing at the no, my queen, don't go back. They'll capture you for sure. It's so ingenious how he plays that off, and nobody catches on to him. And then his little line at the end, he sees Anakin come by. He's like, I'll have to keep an eye on your career. It's such a good movie. It doesn't get the credit it deserves because so many people hate Jar Jar, and I just don't care. I'll get to Jar Jar in a bit, and later on in this list, but Jar Jar is extremely important to episode 1 and the rest of the series. So hate him all you want, but he had a purpose. So
I'll tell you right now, if I had a 6, you want to talk about honorable mentions, if I had a 6, I would have put the Phantom Menace as my number 6.
Nice.
Because there are so many good parts to the Phantom. That, say what you will, but the stuff with Watto, I like the stuff with Watto. I love the pod race. I think the pod race is one of the best scenes in all of Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
And Darth Maul is one of the best villains in any form, books, comic books, cartoons, movies. Clearly one of the best villains. They wouldn't keep bringing him back if he wasn't good.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because, and just like this, take a little bit of your time here, Dan. Darth Maul, when the Phantom Menace was just the Phantom Menace, yeah, it was a waste of a character. Like he should have been in it more, and he should have stuck around a little bit longer. But he was such a good character that not only did he get brought back, and brought into things like, Solo, a Star Wars story, spoiler, but, all through the Clone Wars, all through Rebels, and such a pivotal person in Rebels. He's such a good character, and I'm glad they were able to flesh him out. But yeah, he's absolutely menacing in the Phantom Menace. You're right.
Yeah, and I love it. And you're right. You can overlook Jar Jar Binks. If you can't, then you just don't want to. That's the bottom line. If you can't overlook Jar Jar Binks, you just don't want to.
Yep.
I think Phantom Menace is one of the better Star Wars movies. I mean, if I put it at 6 on my list, that would be my list.
Nice.
All right, so it's
you're number 4.
Yeah, Peter Cushing is Tarkin. Peter Cushing.
Tarkin, that's right there.
I can't. I mean, okay. My number 4 is a little film that it came only a few years ago. That when Disney bought Star Wars, you're thinking, "Oh my God, here we go. We're gonna get this whole expanded thing, books and TV shows and movies and everything." And then they said, "Oh, J.J. Abrams is gonna direct it." And you're like, "Oh God, this guy's got a really great mind." And then you start seeing the casting, people that were in like Attack the Block, people that were in Game of Thrones, people that were in like all this pop culture stuff. You're like, holy crap. Lupita Nyong'o had just won an Oscar for 12 Years a Slave. And you're like, oh, look at this cast. They are going for the best of the best. And the leader is someone we have no clue. Take a guess. How many people knew who Mark Hamill was when I knew it? Nobody. So guess what? It makes sense that it's somebody that nobody knows. And then she becomes a megastar after the fact. And that's Daisy Ridley as Jyn Erso. Oscar Isaac was just blowing up at that time. Now,
not Jyn Erso. Not Jyn Erso.
Ray. Jyn Erso. I was talking about Rogue One. I said Ray. I meant Ray. I said Jyn Erso because I'm talking about Rogue One, but I meant to say Ray. You're right. I see him like Sandy shaking. Oh, shoot. Did I say the wrong thing? Look, we're here having a conversation. Sometimes you say the wrong things.
That's right.
Oh, okay. We're having fun with this. So Ray, she's like this new mysterious character. We don't know anything about her. And we got these great character actors of John Boyega and Oscar Isaac. And then another guy that was starting to blow up at that time when it first came out. He was in this TV show called Girls, and that was Adam Driver. And when I watched that movie, I said to myself, they really have set this up to do whatever they want to do. There's so much they could do. I love these characters of Finn and Poe and Rey and Adam Driver is Ben Solo, Kylo Ren. He had this whole group of guys, and then you got even Domhnall Gleeson's this sniveling little weasel of a guy. It's like, oh my God. And like, oh, I can't wait. I cannot wait for what they do after this. Yeah, was I disappointed with Han Solo's death? But I knew, I said, these movies are going to get rid of Han, Leia, and Luke. They have to get rid of Han, Leia, and Luke and use these new characters and go forward with these new characters. So I was okay with Han dying. I was glad to see him one last time. You know what I mean? But I really, 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 really enjoyed The Force Awakens, and I loved what the potential could be of The Force Awakens. And we won't get into The Last Jedi. Sandy, what do you think of The Force Awakens?
So it did not make my list. I've been a very vocal adversary of The Force Awakens. Not because I hate the movie, but because I thought it was a very I almost thought it was an homage to Star Wars: A New Hope. I'm not going to flat out say, even though I believe it, but I won't flat out say because I know a lot of people disagree, that it's a carbon copy of A New Hope. I mean, you've got the Evil Empire, they've got the New Order, you've got Star Killer Base, you've got Death Stars, you've got Poe Dameron, Han Solo, you've got it's very similar in a lot of ways. And I didn't enjoy it as much as I wanted to. And trust me, I wanted to. Like when this first was available, I was like, no, please, please be so good. I wanted it to be so good, and I still enjoy it. I do. I go back and watch it, and I did my Star Wars rewatch. For for me coming up this Thursday to go and see it, episode 9. And I don't dislike it. I don't. I like it. There's a lot of good things in it. And you're right. You're right. Han Solo's death. It didn't mean as much to me this time around because being such a hardcore fan, I had known he wanted out of the Star Wars franchise, like back in Empire. So, and that he came back to do Return of the Jedi. But he's still Han Solo, and to see him die, especially at the hands, but they had to do that because you needed to elevate Kylo into a very bad person that you disliked a lot. And I think that he was very successful, and JJ was successful in doing that because you walked out of the movie and you hated him more than anybody you've ever hated. So he killed one of our favorite characters and just let him die. And not only that, he was his freaking son. Yeah. So
he had to be irredeemable. He had to be irredeemable. And if they find a way to redeem him in this new one, I don't know about that.
It's going to take something pretty remarkable for him to be redeemed, no matter what. I don't. If we're prognosticating, telling the future, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that he becomes redeemed. But I think it's going to be something amazingly difficult for him to pass over. So
Darth Vader became redeemed.
Yeah, well, and at the end, all it took is that one, thing of compassion for his son to do that. So we'll see what happens to Kylo, aka Ben, going forward. But like I said, Force Awakens to me was a very good jumping off point to see where the series would go. And so far, I haven't been, I'm not a hater for The Last Jedi. Do I love it? Not particularly. Do I like it? Yes, very much. But it's one of the reasons why I'm looking so forward to this next one. Because I think there's an opportunity to take what has happened, turn it on its ear, and do something really, really special. Which I just didn't think Force Awakens was. I didn't think Force Awakens was special enough to really, really make me want to put it on my list.
Yeah, no,
it's in my top 10. It's in my top 10, but
well, I mean, it's not a lot. I think there's only 11, right?
Not if you count Clone Wars. I think
there's only 12. Like 11. Maybe. I don't know. I have to recount. But all right, let's get to your number 3.
Okay, my number 3. Okay, I don't know. We might have to punt this one. My number 3 is the very first Star Wars movie I ever saw. I've already admitted to what that one was. I saw it in the theater in 1977, and it is Episode 4, A New Hope.
Yep. We're definitely going to have to hold off on that.
All right, we're going to punt that one too. All right.
Sorry, Sandy. I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's all right.
We are going to get to your number 5 because your number 5 is my number 3. And since you brought it up first, I'm going to let you talk about Return of the Jedi, and I'll talk about it after you.
All right. Okay. So I admitted earlier in the show that I very much enjoy the darkness of Star Wars, and I think that it's a very good vehicle to go with the series. If it's darker and the rebels are always crawling and scraping and scratching to get a couple of things, and the Empire just keeps on beating them down, it makes Return of the Jedi so much more enjoyable at the end, because deep down we're all relatively nice people, and when something good happens, we're happy about that. We want to cheer, for the hero at that point. And that's what Return of the Jedi is. A New Hope, okay, it ended on a good note. Empire Strikes Back didn't end on a good note at all. There wasn't a good note through that entire series or entire movie, and that was awesome because you still saw the Rebel Alliance struggling in Return of the Jedi. They were still struggling, to get this victory. And it was just so, Leia's growth, as, her own real character, not always having to be tagging along with the guys. And she has her own adventure with Wicket in the Forest and the Ewoks, Luke's realization, going back and seeing Yoda, watching Yoda pass away, finding out that he really is the son of Darth Vader, and that, that he is Anakin Skywalker, his dad, thinking that he's a Jedi. Yoda kind of laughing at him, saying, "Nah, not yet, buddy. You still have to face him." And then going out and talking to Ben about it, and why did Ben lie? And we the first time we hear from a certain point of view, which I think is still one of the most dirty comments in all of Star Wars. It's just Ben saying, "Well, what I told you was true from a certain point of view. Screw you, Kenobi, you lied." But you know what? It's such a warm movie. It's definitely not. Like I said, it's my number 5, so it's not the biggest action one for me. It doesn't have the greatest story for me, but what it has is a lot of heart, and that's what I loved about it, because you get that Luke tears into the dark side, like, when Vader says, "Well, if you won't turn, perhaps she will," and he comes out of there, and the anger is flowing right through him. He's total dark side, and he goes up against his dad and beats the living hell out of him. And the Emperor just laughs. Good, Skywalker. Let the hate. And at that moment, just like a light switch, he's like, "No, I'm not going to join you. I'm not on the dark side. I'm a Jedi like my father was before me." And then, the redemption of Darth Vader, which I think is extraordinarily important in the Star Wars lexicon, because he'd done so many bad things. Like, if you go back and you read the books that are associated with the Star Wars canon around that time, whoa, he was not a nice dude. And for him to do something as selfless as sacrifice himself to save his son, it's pretty redeemable in my eyes. And it also makes you feel. And that's what I mean about heart, is that this whole movie is about heart, not necessarily the best action in the series. But I love this movie. I'd love to hear what you think about it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. One of the things I said at the beginning of the show was I love the seedy side, the nasty side, the dirty side. And how this movie starts is just like, my eyes were like as big as baseballs, because you see these droids going to this place, you don't know what it is, but they say, "Oh, it's Jabba's palace." And they go, "Oh, yeah." And then when they get in there, you got weird-looking guys with 2 bumps in there, and these green ogre-looking guys. And then you see, "Oh, wait, that's Lando over there. Oh, who is Lando? What is Lando doing over there?" And then you see Boba Fett, and you see this big guy on the platform, and that's Jabba the Hutt. And then you see out of nowhere the next day or whatever, Luke comes in there, and all hell breaks loose. And then you see the Carbonite with Han in there. You see Leia. She ends up getting in on becoming the slave of Jabba. And then they have the whole fight on the barges, and Boba Fett gets thrown into the Rancor pit. I absolutely loved the beginning of Return of the Jedi. I thought it was so freaking great. I like Star Wars. This is what I want to see.
So glad you brought that up, because I just moved right past it and got over to what it is. But you're right. I mean, I can't tell you how many times me and my friends played, where I was Luke Skywalker and I jumped off some plank somewhere and somebody threw his lightsaber up in the air and I caught it and went nutsoid. I mean, there's no, there's nothing better than hearing that song go, and, just that little tip of the hat to R2 over in the side there. Han Solo trying to shoot the little tentacle from Lando. "I thought you were blind. Oh, you're much better now." And he's like, a little higher. So, and that's something that's awesome about Star Wars, is they always interject that little bit of humor all over the place. So yeah, Return of the Jedi is good, man.
And then, the ending. I mean, what can I say that you haven't already said about the ending? It's just like, yeah, no, I am not the dark side. I am a good guy. I'm a good guy, and I'm gonna be a good. Just because I'm dressed in black doesn't mean I'm a bad guy.
Yeah.
And it was great to have that ending. And yeah, the Ewok stuff is. I enjoyed the Ewok stuff when I was a kid, but as an adult, it's not as enjoyable for me as when I was a kid. But it's still fun. It's some fun, entertaining places, interesting stuff, and whatnot.
Well, and they're badass little warriors too,
yeah.
man. They were taking it to the Imperials during that fight on Endor. So yeah, I mean, they might be cute and little fuzzy for this part and add a little bit of humor there, but when it comes time to whoop some ass, they were in it to win it. So
and those races, those speeder
bikes through.
Oh wow, was that cool or what?
Well, if we don't get that, we don't get the pod race and Phantom Menace because that was so fast looking. And to go back and watch like Empire of Dreams, the making of the Star Wars trilogy, and see how they made that whole thing happen in the redwood forests of California. Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah, that stuff was kind of like, wow, look at this. This is neat, man. How they do that, Yeah. But so I have Return of the Jedi at 3, and you had it at 5. So now we're gonna go to your number 2.
Okay. This is probably going to surprise anybody who doesn't know me it's gonna surprise them. But my second favorite Star Wars movie of all time is Revenge of the Sith Episode 3. I love this movie.
I don't have that on my list.
I wouldn't expect. There's very few people that agree with me on this, but I really enjoyed the journey of Anakin Skywalker from Episode 1 all the way to the end of Episode 3, where we see him become Darth Vader. What I didn't know, because it was never told to us before, that he was actually anointed Darth Vader before he went into the suit, and it wasn't just the suit that made him Darth Vader. He was Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader at the same time. That's where he went. It's once again the political drama, and I'm gonna right now I'm gonna tell you where Jar Jar Binks is one of the most important figures in Star Wars. When they are trying to convince whoever that they want to give Emperor Palpatine or Chancellor Palpatine more power, dummy Jar Jar Binks is listening to this because they're sitting there going, oh, I wish, Senator Amidala was here because, she would surely stand up and vote for, more emergency powers to the Chancellor. And Jar Jar hears that, and because he's none too bright, he goes right up into the Senate because he's sitting in for Amidala, and this is all an Attack of the Clones. But and he goes, me's a vote, and gets him these emergency powers that essentially turns him into the Emperor. So that is why Jar Jar is important, because he does what nobody else would have done, and that was move him, Emperor Palpatine, into total power. And that's what you see in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Like, Anakin finally figures it out that he's a bad guy, that he's the Sith Lord they've been looking for, and he goes and confronts him. Palpatine's weaponless. He's just sitting there talking to him, and Anakin's got his lightsaber right to his throat. How can you take somebody who's so good as a Jedi, and in that moment twist everything that and Anakin does not kill him, doesn't bring him in. He just goes to talk to Mace Windu and say, hey, he's the Sith Lord we're looking for. And then Mace does the worst thing possible, and it's, stay here, we'll take care of it. And then they go and they get their asses handed to them by a Sith Lord, like the Sith Lord. And then Anakin shows up just in time to see Mace winning, and takes his arm off. And that's the moment he takes on the mantle of Darth Vader. And then he goes and kills the younglings. He goes and kills the rest of the Jedi with the 501st Infantry Unit. It's heartbreaking at the same time. And and you see it when he goes to Mustafar. He's standing there and he's killed all the Neomodans and he's killed everybody that's there as their reward, for being, loyal to Palpatine. And he kills them all. And then you see him sitting there like with his arm crossed and his yellow Sith eyes and the tear coming down his face, because somewhere, and Luke said this in Return of the Jedi, somewhere there was still good in him. There was still an amount of good in him that it caused him, no matter what he did, he still felt bad about it. And that's why he was crying. It is literally the perfect journey in the opposite way as it was for Luke. You saw Luke grow from just this farm kid, to get a lightsaber from a crazy old wizard to becoming a Jedi Knight at the end of Return of the Jedi. You see the exact opposite happen to Anakin. You see him grow, get to become a Jedi Knight, and then completely fall into the wrong side. And, and for the reasons he thought it, I can save Padme. I'm not going to lose my mother. You can see the tragedy of what has happened to Anakin and the tragedy of Darth Vader himself. And that makes it more powerful when you see things at the end of Return of the Jedi, because you know where he was, you know what he did. And for that to have redeemed him is why Return of the Jedi is such a good movie. And it's also why Revenge of the Sith is my second favorite Star Wars movie. Yeah, I didn't even bring up the stuff between him and Obi-Wan. And that's if I'm going to pick the second greatest fight scene of all time, lightsaber fight scene, it's Obi-Wan versus Anakin on Mustafar. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't have a lot of thoughts on Revenge of the Sith, because it hasn't resonated with me as much as other Star Wars movies. But after listening to you, I want to go back and watch it right now. I mean, you make it sound like it's so important and so it must see if you're a Star Wars fan, and how it fits in so well in it, and the characters, how the development of the characters and so forth. You explained it so well, Sandy, and I didn't think of it in those terms like you explained it. So I'm glad. And that's what movies do. I mean, sometimes someone like you're such a big fan of that, and maybe you could say something to me that I can now I'm thinking about what you're saying, and maybe that makes my mind think differently about that film. I, on the other hand, was a fan of a different one of the trilogy that's not very popular because of things that happen within the movie. I like some of the stuff that happens in the Clone Wars movie, the second one, but I know a lot of people don't like that. So that's the different sensibilities between people, and that's why the world is such a great place, and sometimes it can be a bad place too.
For me, it's like, like I said in for Phantom Menace, and like I said for Attack of the Clones, there are parts that people really focus on. Like, everybody gets all crazy about him at the end when Palpatine tells him Padme's dead. He's like, no. Everybody gets on that. I wasn't listening to that. I was watching the room with him using his Force power, the dark side power, crushing everything in the room, and Palpatine going like this.
Yeah, you're right.
At the end of it, that's what I could care less about him screaming no and doing whatever. Like, that means nothing to me. It meant that he was so rage filled that he crushed everything in that room, and Palpatine was like, yeah, he still got it. And that's what mattered to me, because that leads into Rogue One, and then that leads into Episode 4, A New Hope, and now why we know why Anakin is so pissed off at the world.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you are so right. You're so correct on it. I mean, there's nothing I could say that could even think of, disputing what you're saying. And that's what I love about this show, is because you get the passion of why people love certain movies and so forth. And we're going to get into my number 2 now, which was your number 3, I believe. That's Star Wars: A New Hope, the very first one I saw this on HBO, and And the same day I saw Empire in the theater, I saw this on HBO. And HBO at the time was a new thing. It was home box office. It was like this new thing, and it's like, and we were able to see Star Wars on HBO. And I'll tell you right now, it's just something about these characters when I first saw it, and this ragtag group of like this princess and this farm boy and these two goofy droids, and they pick up this old hermit in the damn desert, and this guy in his ship, and his ship's falling apart. It's like, what is this group of ragtag
big hairy monster?
It's like, and then you're like, I just love these guys. You just fall in love with these characters when you first see them for the first time, and you're like, why do I like this? What is it about this goofy? How did George Lucas do this? Make this stuff look real, and it looks like authentic, where you're like, wow, this is cool. These big walkers or what? No walkers. Like ships in this giant Death Star. These ships going around having this fight and stuff like that. These TIE fighters and you like all these different type of people in the ships, and then the rebel base with it's like, where did this come from? And you're like, why couldn't I have come up with something so incredible and so just original and so different? And I just as a kid, I loved A New Hope. And I could talk about how much Han Solo and Chewbacca really are my two favorite characters. And it was because of that movie that they were my two favorite characters in Star Wars. Darth Vader was just, oh my God, he was amazing in that. So it was your number 3, I believe. So go on about A New Hope. I didn't go too crazy with it because it's like, we know everybody's seen it. I love it. You love it. We all love it. I can't really say a whole lot that people don't really know,
Absolutely. Listen, it was my number 3, and it's only because my number 2 and my number 1 aren't ever losing their spots. So, well, I can't say that yet because I don't know about the next one. So A New Hope is so good in a whole bunch of different ways. Like, yeah, we get introduced to all these weirdo characters. We see this giant, tall, black dude just pick up a guy and chuck him across the room when he doesn't give him the answers that he wants, snaps his neck first, so we already know we're in for it's not a G rating in Star Wars, but it really does make it so you just fall in love with these characters. You just, every one of them has something different to bring to the party. And George Lucas may not be the best director in the world, but his genius at storytelling is unquestioned. He's built an entire world was this, and to build such a world that everybody else has gone into. Everybody that's going to watch this is going to watch it 1,000 times, has watched it 1,000 times. So there's no reason for me to go into all the little jokes and all the little things that are here and there and stuff like that. It was the perfect blend of what you wanted to see and wanted to, and wanted to be part of. It was so fantastic and so breathtaking almost that you just needed to, you just needed to watch it and watch it again and again and again, and you couldn't wait for the next one. So it just absolutely is a great movie.
And now we're down to our number 1s. I'm assuming it's the same film, and I always turn it over to my guests first. So Sandy, wax poetic about. I'm assuming I'll let you say it.
All right. Well, I'm assuming that both of us have the exact same one as number 1. It is no question. It is absolutely Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. I saw this movie in my hometown It was one of the last movies that they played there before they tore the theater down. What can you say about this? What can't you say about this movie? It has everything. It has love, which you never thought you'd really see in Star Wars, but you've got the budding relationship of Han Solo and Princess Leia in this one, but it's pure action, like from beginning to end. There are really no real lull points. Like even Luke on Dagobah, when he meets Yoda and stuff, it's still action. Like it's just a different type of action, but you're just glued to it because you're like, okay, this is how you become a Jedi. This is how you become a Jedi. And so it's from then you go from Hoth, and the walkers for the first time. You see the walkers for the first time. Like, how do you just not love those things? You see snow speeders. You see then you see Luke, in his little on his tauntaun getting mauled by this wampa creature, and then he gets out, and Ben tells him in his ghost form to go over here and over there and go to Dagobah and seek out Yoda, the master who taught me. Once again, just giving us little tidbits of this world that we didn't know about until we saw the prequels. And then you move off of there, they escape, and Darth Vader's had it with the Millennium Falcon. He's like, I want that ship, and he hires a ton of bounty hunters, including the aforementioned Return of the Jedi eaten Boba Fett. And that's, the second time we see him, because of course the first time we see him is in the Christmas special, which nobody talks about. But you know what, in the first time in the movies you see him, he's this menacing character. You've never seen anything like it. And they go to Bespin. We meet Lando for the first time. Things don't look good from the outset, but then they look great, and you think everything's all happy, and then 3PO gets blowed up. And when he sees it and can't talk or anything, Chewie takes it upon himself to start fixing them. And then they walk into that room, and there's Darth Vader and Boba Fett right behind him. And he's like, we would love it if you'd come for dinner. And just, Han Solo just pew, 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 shoots him, and he just uses the Force to block them all. And you knew what was going to happen after that. Things were going to go downhill fast. And boy, did they ever. Torture, carbonite, one of the best lines ever in Star Wars history, with "I love you, I know." Shh. And he's all frozen up, and Luke leaving his training to go and save his to save his friends because he sees them in the Force vision, fighting Darth Vader. Darth Vader telling the Emperor, "Hey, listen, if he could be turned, he'd become a great ally." And you could see almost right there that he's still, I don't really want to kill my son. Like, I know he's my son. Like, even if he doesn't know, I know he is. I don't want to really kill him, but if we could turn him and, then I could use him to overthrow the Emperor and do that kind of stuff. But Luke's having none of it. He's getting his butt kicked, gets one good shot in, and then his arm goes off. He gets his hand cut off. And then the reveal. And then the reveal, probably one of the biggest reveals in movie history, under such close scrutiny. Nobody knew it. Like, Hamill didn't even know it until 10 minutes before the scene was going to start. And David Prowse didn't know. And even James Earl Jones didn't know. He was, he said, no, they got to be lying. It's not true. And he falls down and reaches out to Leia, and Leia comes and gets him, and they are screwed. They are royally screwed. Han's gone. They're in disarray. Luke's wounded. It's a very dark ending to a dark movie. And I think that's one of the things that makes it fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, you said so much. I saw this in 1980, and a lot of people, they know me, how much I love the year of 1980 in movies. And this is one of the movies why. And Empire Strikes Back is in my top 5 movies of all time. I mean, I absolutely think it's one of the greatest movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And there'll be very few movies that will ever even compare to The Empire Strikes Back. Like you said, the Wampa and the Tauntaun at the beginning and all that stuff, a Han and Leia relationship, the whole thing with Boba Fett and Darth Vader and Lando on Bespin. Just was like, and then that battle with Luke and Darth Vader at the end. Luke, I am your father. No! He cuts his arm off, and it's just, as someone who has father issues, which I have, movies that have stuff involving like tragedy and stuff involving like fathers that you don't want as your father, which is Darth Vader. Luke didn't want Darth Vader as his father. And it's like, it reminded me of my own childhood, because I didn't want my father as my father. I didn't want my upbringing. And it was so close to home for me. And I just was like, wow, they can put this stuff in a movie about flying ships in space and lightsabers and all this kinds of stuff. I was absolutely blown away as a child when I first saw this movie. And I can't say enough about how incredible this film is. And the storytelling and direction by Kasdan and Lucas was, I mean, it's spot on. I mean, there's rarely going to ever be a movie. There's very few movies that even compare to The Empire Strikes Back, in my opinion. And there will rarely ever be a movie that even comes close to being as good as this movie. I mean, they haven't made movies as good as The Empire Strikes Back in 30 years, if you ask me. I mean, the Godfather films came out in the 70s, and then some classics that came out in the 40s and 50s and whatnot. They have not made movies this good, that have this many stakes, this much like twisting and turning and ups and downs. And I mean, and it's like, this is a science fiction movie. How could they put so much gravitas in a science fiction movie about lightsabers and flying ships in space? And I'm blown away by this movie. Every time I watch it, I see new things in it, which makes, when you're watching great movies, you see new things every single time you watch them. And I see new things every time I watch The Empire Strikes Back, because I'm looking for little things that I didn't see before. And I've seen this movie dozens of times, and I will continue to see it a bunch of more times, because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. So that is our top fives. Sandy, you got any honorable? You said Rogue One was an honorable mention. You got any others?
Yeah, you know what? I do. I think as much as I'm not a fan of certain parts of this movie, I still think it's really a really cool thing that they did in The Last Jedi. I think it gets a bad rap for a couple of different reasons, but I still like it as a movie. The Force Awakens was definitely going to be an honorable mention for me as well, especially with the lead up to I've watched, like I said, watched them both again very recently, and I appreciate them a little bit more. But I'm gonna shout out one that I don't think gets any credit at all, and that's the animated Clone Wars movie, which I think is great on its own, and Solo, a Star Wars story. I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it at all. I thought it had some good moments, and I thought that it worked well as a standalone story.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now. I watched Solo, a Star Wars story, and I said, and it would be an honorable mention for me too. And I'm like, am I seeing the same movie that everybody's talking about? Is this what am I watching? What is it about this that people don't like? This movie is fantastic. It's fun. It's action-packed. It's that origin of Chewie is so incredible to me. How we didn't know what the heck that was. We don't know what was going on there. And then bam, you see it's Chewie, and you're like, oh, it's Chewie. And you're like, oh my God, what a great way for Han and Chewie to meet. They end up getting prison together in a jail and whatnot. And he helps them out. And that's why he ends up with that life debt of Han. Han gets the life debt from Chewie because of him saving him and helping him out and stuff. It's like, wow. And then what's his name? Donald Glover playing Lando. I mean, I love Donald Glover as Lando, you know? And then that thing at the end, you know, with Darth Maul, which, you know, you didn't see coming, you know, you just didn't see that. There's no way you could have seen that coming. I really like Solo. I like the Clone Wars movie of the trilogy. Is that the one? It's called the Clone Wars.
Yeah.
The movie number 2 of the second trilogy, because I love that whole thing where the assassins try to kill Obi-Wan, or was it, who was he trying to kill? I can't remember now. Who was the assassin trying to kill with like a snake type creature or something? And then somebody caught him, and then Obi-Wan had to race through the Coruscant, chasing that assassin. I love that.
That's an Attack of the Clones. That was Zam Wessel, who was a changeling working for Jango Fett. No, the two big baddies in the Clone Wars were Asajj Ventress and Count Dooku.
Yeah, what I meant in it, Attack of the Clones, the second movie in that trilogy. A lot of people don't like it. I like that scene a lot, and I also love that big battle with the monsters in this whole bug place that they were at. I can't remember what the place was called. Geonosis. And they have all these crazy, and that's when Order 66 came out and stuff, and that's when they all started.
Revenge of the Sith.
Huh?
Revenge of the Sith.
That was never mind. But they had a bunch of Jedi there, and they were all fighting monsters and stuff, right?
They were fighting clone troopers and the Geonosians, which are bug-like creatures. Yeah. Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Amidala are captured, and they each have a monster that's coming out to eat them. Yeah. But they get taken care of relatively quickly. Obi-Wan cuts their legs off, and of one of them, Anakin rides around on another one, and then Jango shoots it. I love that. What happened to the things? Yeah, no, there are some really good parts of Attack of the Clones too. Is it a good movie? But there are some good parts in it. I still like. I love the Anakin dual lightsaber fight against Count Dooku. I thought it was great. I really enjoyed the Yoda lightsaber battle with Dooku. I thought that was a good thing too. Like I said, even the bad ones still have some good moments.
Yeah, they really do. But all right, Sandy, what is your 5 through 1?
My 5 through 1 are Return of the Jedi, 4, The Phantom Menace, 3, A New Hope, 2, Revenge of the Sith, and 1, The Empire Strikes Back.
And my 5 is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, 4, The Force Awakens, 3, Return of the Jedi, 2, A New Hope, and 1, The Empire Strikes Back. And Sandy, where can you be found?
You guys can find me all over Full Metal Trivia on YouTube and Facebook. You can also find me as S Robinson 1799 on Facebook, on Letterboxd, and Instagram. Thanks for having me, Dan. I really appreciate it. It's been fun talking Star Wars.
Hey, no problem. I knew as soon as I knew I was going to do Star Wars, I reached out to you right away, and I was hoping to get another third person that I knew would love Star Wars, but we couldn't get their schedules. And then I reached out to other people, and we couldn't get their schedules, so it was just going to be me and you talking Star Wars. So
busy time of year.
Yeah, say that again.
Busy time of year.
Yeah, everybody's busy doing something. You're right. So you can find me at Dan Skip Allen on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest. Yep, I got my Instagram back, so I'm ready to go. I write movie reviews for a website and sports articles for a website called cinesportstalk.com. That's cinesportstalk.com. That's cinesportstalk.com. And another website called Disappointment Media, where I do contribute movie reviews for them as well. So for Sandy Robinson and myself, good evening, everybody.